I'm back. So I'm probably going to use a bit more, I don't know, power in this topic, um, because I'm quite convicted about this theme, and it has to do with empaths, highly sensitive persons, all the idealists in the Mybriggs, and our responsibility to participate in society. And I'm speaking specifically to the introverts and the extroverts in the idealist range of the Mybrigg types, and anyone else that identifies as an empath or a highly sensitive person. I know that due to the sensitive nature of our personality, we have often been felt marginalized. We have often had to put on faces. We have often, those of us that were creative enough to put on faces, I feel I always I'm really proud of those introverts like INFPs that just don't hide it. They're just like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm not afraid to say it or to show it. Whereas I think specific to the INFJ personality, we're very good chameleons, and we tend to hide our frowns. So but nevertheless, anyone that has felt this and has expressed it or has felt it and repressed it. So because we're often overwhelmed and feeling like we're not really built for the current system or for the current state of the modern world, and let alone the third world. I mean, just go spend some time over there and you can see that it's even more difficult there. So as an INFJ that has been very committed to community development and psychological research and study for the last 10 years, and watched how my vision has just gotten clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer, and that my desire to participate in the world, in this 2018 and 2017 has really like quadrupled. There was a time where I even began to question whether I should participate or not. I just kept dreaming of me on the mountain, me just disappearing to a jungle over in the central of America or Africa or the Himalayas, and just dedicating my time to study and meditation. And I did that. I lived on an island for a while, and it's very nice, especially an introvert that really enjoys their introverted space. But I could not tame the pulse to do something with my time here on earth, something positive, something constructive, and something that would impact my society in a positive way. So it didn't matter what level of peace I discovered, my desire to do something positive and to participate with my society was always there. But because of my nature and the overwhelming space that I constantly found myself in, the noise, the loudness, the speed, people not really knowing how to connect, the constant confrontation of finding that my society wasn't built to understand me or to empower me, at least this aspect of me, was a real limitation. So I don't know whether, well, I explained in my previous video that I developed post-traumatic stress symptoms last year in January 2017. Interestingly, this very dark journey has led me to a very, very narrow doorway and has made things as clear as daylight for me. And this is a consequence of me literally making my pain the center of my study. Why it's there, how it got there, and what can I do about it. Through that experience, I had this aha moment where it didn't matter what I achieved here in this material realm. I constantly had the idea of me on a mountain top, meditating, studying, chopping wood, and as long as I had this image and felt that, and like in a community space up in the mountains with God, as long as I had this image, it was always going to taint anything I could do in a material sense in the modern world. And then once I had, especially through Dr. John Kabat-Zinn's mountain meditation, I highly recommend that. It's just on YouTube, you can type it, where he encourages us to identify with the mountain, and that we are the mountaintop, stable and sturdy. And it doesn't matter that the seasons would change the color of our coat with snow and the color of leaves and living animals, and that we are still this serene rock, steadfast and strong underneath it. And so I think I was constantly using this meditation to be here. And then I was like, I realized that this image I had of me on a mountaintop with growing vegetables and meditating and studying, which I'm sure will happen one day when I'm 80 maybe. But I realized it was a symbol. It was a symbol because it was such a constant image that I always had in my mind. And it was symbolic of peace, stability, steadfastness, and constructing a space that felt validating to me. And then I realized, unless I know how to be here now, even when I am at the mountaintop, and I've been at plenty of mountaintops since then, and it's true, I always come back to the world. I always come back to the real world. And I realized if I really wanted to be, especially in my privileged position, if I really wanted to be on a mountaintop meditating and studying and chopping wood and growing vegetables, I would be there now. And that's the cool thing about living in modern day society. Once you realize that it doesn't take that much money to escape, just end up a hermit on some mountain, your closest hill, I realized that nothing was actually stopping me from having that dream. And then I was like, why am I here then? Battling with my own reality. And then I noticed it's because I want to be here. And I am the mountain. And then I just committed to constructing a mountain experience inside of me, a space that was validating, that was nurturing, that was nourishing, that was peaceful, that was restful, and working at carrying this space with me wherever I go, my work, my home, my relationships. Now that's going to take practice because I'm so used to being what someone else needs and not what I really am. But that's what this year is about, practicing being me and taking the whole of me, mind, body, and spirit into all of the areas of my world. And only when I absolutely have to put a show or persona, right? Then, because it's true that, there's places where we can't be our hippie selves. And it's nice. It's nice to be the intellectual or the spiritual or the family member or the social butterfly, whatever role you can play. It's fun to play those roles, but never deviate too far or too long from what we really are underneath. And I'm discovering more and more what it is that I am. And I'm quiet, I'm slow, I'm gentle, extremely sensitive. The deep need for authentic conversation. I'm serious. I'm judged how serious I am. And I put on. It's really difficult for me to be silly or be funny. and even though I can be funny, I've been told, I'm just learning to really enjoy what I am underneath the images I have portrayed at university, at work, with family, in social settings. So I'm deviating a little bit, but because of this work, this inner work, I also realized, okay, so if I am going to participate in my system, in my society, in the world, then I'm going to do it my way, my rules. And I'm not going to judge the world for what it is. I'm just going to do my bit and hope for the best. I stopped worrying about what was happening in every corner of every continent and just began to focus on my corner of my world. And this is manageable. So I'm done trying to solve problems. I'm literally just focusing on providing solutions. And this is where social entrepreneurship sat perfectly with me, especially as I began to structure or look at the structure of my vision, which has been clear since I was 16. I've never deviated from what I wanted to do, and I've diligently committed to specializing in that area. And I think that's a cool thing about INFJs, that we really are narrow-minded. That doesn't always work for us, can work against us. But when it comes to specializing on something, we're good. That's our perfectionistic tendencies can really help us there, guys. And this is why we need to really gauge our personality and use it to develop and to create, and not become a slave to some of these traits. Like we're highest in dissatisfaction in love and work, and that's because we're perfectionists and we're idealists. We're constantly comparing. But we can use our perfectionism, our capacity for detail, when we're specializing in something, especially in a field. So I really recommend INFJs, whatever age you're at, just commit to one thing, focus, and you will watch how you begin to master that. So literally the last year, my battery's going to die again. This happens a lot. I'm going to try and find the charger. Just bear with me. Yes. So basically, can you hear me? I hope so. So I said, if I'm going to participate, right, then it's going to have to be done my way, my rules. We're extremely agreeable. Most INFJs are. And so our way is usually their way. but we've got to be intelligent that even though we will specialize on finding the needs of others, and we will do everything within our power to fulfill the need, then we can use that, whatever it is, whatever field you're in. So mine, psychology, and my FE has really helped me identify what the need is in this field for the human race, or at least the human population in these areas, right? So I feel like we have a real responsibility to be involved in the business world, because we don't like the jobs that the world is offering right now. We couldn't bear to think of a 9 to 5 where we're having to work on a computer or sell products. I don't know, so if we're really not going to submit, and I'm not saying that nobody could, I don't think anybody should. I think everybody should literally be going to work and loving what they're doing. And since INFJs have this real FE, I feel like we have the potential to create these sorts of work environments for others, environments where humans can thrive. If we're going to be spending 30 to 80 hours a week on work, depending on your level of workaholism or commitment, it must be a space that is helping us develop who we are as a person. And that's sort of what began my business venture. I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be launching a business in 2018. My sister was incredibly business-minded, and so we were both very different. And she's gone now. She passed away in 2015, and she really left. Sorry, still a delicate topic for me. But she left me a real mark, and her feminine effort to participate in the business world really inspired me. So I ended up doing a certificate in micro business, which is very good for me to learn. But I began to notice that the models that they're using don't really fit with my personality. So things like, the profits and all of this stuff. And then I found myself really stuck to finish my business plan. And I gave myself time. I wasn't going to rush this. I realized that rushing and deadlines wasn't going to be a big part of my business model. So if I'm going to be the head, then I've got to put those practices in place first. So I thought I'm not going to design the business with rushing and deadlines. So I took my time, and through that, I discovered that I had to rewrite the model. I had to write my own model, a model that was accommodating to my personality and the sort of people I would have work with me in this project. And it's been really rewarding, guys. So I just want to encourage you. I'm going to be documenting quite a fair bit of this journey because I have no idea. I don't know who the models are. Where are the role models of the social entrepreneur world and a highly sensitive personality? Especially as most of us prefer to be on the, sort of cheerleader side. So I feel like I've got quite a fair few assets that can help me. I'm terrified, of course, because I hate failing, but I feel like I don't really have anything else more important to do with my time. Complaining about being a victim isn't going to work anymore. I'm 37, and I'm literally just committing my time to creating something fruitful, something at the very least that's fruitful for me. And I have discovered that what is fruitful for me, by coincidence, no, by pure magic, I think, has found itself to be fruitful for others. And I think as INFJs and empaths, we have the capacity to do that because we know what people need. And the more we identify what we need, and that we're not that different from others, I feel like once we step out and say, well, I want this and I need this, we can encourage others to do the same. So if you are an empath, a highly sensitive personality, or an INFJ, or all of the above, an idealist, a perfectionist, please feel free to send me links here, books, articles, journals, any other professionals that are sensitive, that are empathic, and that are putting their feet in the business world. I think we need to leave a mark. Sorry, the last thing I wanted to say. While the empaths and the idealists, we've been sitting on our little corners, tormented by the overwhelming world, I feel like the sociopaths of the world, the psychopaths, the sick materialists, which are not a very big percentage, mind you. I think statistically it's like 1% of the world's population, guys. And of course, these are the 1% that are out there running the world. And I feel they've had free reign because we believe that we're not strong enough. They may be strong in the outer world, but we are strong in the inner world. And I think the more we begin to truly believe this, and I've heard there's a beautiful woman with an incredible following on YouTube. Her name is Amanda Flaker. I think that's her name. Feel free to Google her or YouTube her. Obviously, I mean, I'm very research-based with the stuff that I work with, but she's fluffy enough to really not be afraid to speak of that. She talks about the matrix and all those topics that I'm very careful with, but I love how open she can be about it. Nevertheless, has really good feedback in her messages, especially in the world of business for empaths. She's fantastic in that regard. So again, I don't condone anybody's message simply because I don't condone all of everybody's messages, because we've all got our own unique expressions of our truth. So you really have to be critical in the way that you hear other people's messages. I'm extremely research-based. Study, like I guess the study of psychology has forced me to be like that. Nevertheless, Amanda Flaker provides a really nice base, and she talks about something I'd contemplated as well. And she talks about there's a high need now for the empaths to rise. And there's a big need now, a big demand in marketing, in business, for empaths, because we really do know how to identify the needs of our society. Now I think we have a responsibility to ensure that our strengths are used for good. And rather than selling our strengths off to big companies, I think we need to build our own. And maybe they don't have to be big companies. Maybe they can just be small community projects that fund a living for us and a living for a few other employees. Maybe it turns out to be a massive social enterprise. It doesn't matter. The idea is that we use our strengths for good, to cultivate, to develop, to flourish, to tell people that they are not the totality of a painful experience and that they can grow and learn from it. At least that's my message, that we are not the totality of suffering and conflict, and that if we can train the brain to perceive conflict and discomfort in a curious, compassionate way, then we're more likely to digest it, investigate it, learn from it, and then develop our personality across it rather than just avoiding it. And then I feel that the business world, the relationship world, the family world, all of these different corners of the world become agents for development, because every one of those corners of society are going to involve a level of conflict or discomfort or limits or failures. And if we can begin to see these things and these spaces as agents for personal growth, then we're more likely to own it and to take responsibility and not project the blame onto why our husbands are not making us happy, or why our boss is an asshole, or why our mother was this, or why our childhood was that. And that's my message. So again, I apologize for the sort of roundabout nature of these conversations. I'm not using this channel as a platform to teach. That's sort of what my project is about. I'm just using this as a platform where I can get to voice my journey as a highly sensitive INFJ, tapping into the business world, and also where I get to report, so where I can keep a digital record of my own conflicts and stories and processes. As I mentioned in my first video, as INFJs, we tend to hide from the world what we really are, or what our thoughts really are, or what our conflicts really are. And I've noticed that I've not created environments or spaces around me where I can truly be me. And this anonymous doorway into your wherever you are, and knowing that one of you or hundreds of you may listen, sort of encourages this practice of eventually being more of who I really am underneath the images I project within my business world, within my family, within my social network. So thank you if you're here, and if you're not, I am. And I will be listening to myself once again. I think that's what we need to do as INFJs, really validate what we really are underneath it all. We are extremely vulnerable, guys, and I believe that was so strong for so long, because that's what the world teaches you should be. And more I've discovered, and Kirko, if you're listening here, I know you mentioned Eckhart Tolle. Kirko was someone that had commented on a few of the videos. And Eckhart Tolle talks about accessing our invulnerability by becoming vulnerable, by allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. And I think I get what he means. I remember reading that 5 years ago and understanding a very small shadow of that. And more I am learning that being all that I am, as slow and as gentle and as fragile and as sensitive as I am, and not being afraid to be that, is giving me a type of strength I never imagined. And I think in a great way that developing post-traumatic stress sort of awoke me to the illusion of being strong and feeling secure. It really was an illusion. And I can understand that being that strong and that secure wasn't sustainable in the long run. So, as difficult as this journey has been for me, I'm sure I'll get to share a bit of it through my videos. I do want to encourage you, if you are experiencing the edge of your limit, don't be scared. Like, learn from it. Seek real wisdom from people that have a desire to truly love you and be there for you. Sometimes in the form of a therapist, if you don't have those spaces around you. But I really do think there is something in accessing our vulnerability, and as INFJs especially, we're hypersensitive, the light, sometimes the sounds, all of these things that we've thought made us weak. But it's because we're strong in another realm. So okay. I don't know. Again, I feel like I'm rambling. God, I well, that's what this video is. This channel is about. Take care, guys. I think that's it for today. Thank you for listening if you're here.